Hi, welcome to the Yellow Talking Show. I'm DV LeBron. This show is brought to you by Midlothian Blade and Barber, 1000 Main Street in Midlothian. That sometimes your hair gets long. I don't have that problem, as you can see. But if your hair is getting long, go see Geraldo and tell him DV LeBron sent you. You'll get a good haircut. It's a good place. They support law enforcement. They support the military. It's a great place to get a haircut. I'd highly recommend them. So today I have Chief Goolsby of the Waxahachie Police Department. How you doing, Chief?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here.
Chief, I'm really glad that you decided to come on and talk to the people of Waxahachie. I know you had a busy day and it's never easy for the chief. So giving me your time is special. Thank you.
Uh,
Uh,
Not a problem.
a lot. I know that you've noticed that there's been a lot of growth in the city. So I'd like to, for people who don't know you, I'd like for you to introduce yourself to the people of Waxahachie.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Wade Goolsby. I'm the chief here. I've been chief here in Waxahachie for about 7.5 years. I've got 42 years total in law enforcement, and this has been the best part of the career. So it's really been fun. It's a great community and a great department, and I enjoy coming to work every day.
That is definitely a long time, 42 years, and you are on the downswing of that career. I believe that it'll be next month, I think is what you told me, or it's coming close. But I was going to have you say goodbye to the folks later on. I wanted to
Okay.
talk to you about the budgeting process. I've talked to several government entities, taxing entities throughout the county. I've had interviews with different police chiefs, and I also had interview with the county sheriff. And what is did the budget this year kind of meet with the things that you wanted to do? What are some of the things that you'd like to see going forward? What are some of the needs of the department right now?
Well, right now, it really is just a matter of keeping up with the growth. The city has been very supportive of us over the last few years. We've put several major projects in place. And so right now, it's really just keeping the personnel to keep up with the growth of the city. This year, we were asking for 4 officers. They actually went ahead and gave us a little advance on a couple of those positions so that we could start filling those positions. And it's really just a matter of keeping up. But the city's been great. We're in great shape, and we appreciate the support that we get in our efforts to keep the community safe.
And as far as one of the things that I've seen a lot in the news lately is about people not wanting to go into policing, and there's been staffing shortages and that such. Is Waxahachie experiencing those shortage in officers? Are you short officers right now? What's kind of the level that you'd like to be running at?
Well, right now, I mean, we're in a constant state of catch up because from the time you hire an officer, they most of the time they have to go to the police academy, and that's now about 6 months long. Then once they come out of the academy, they go into what we call a field training program, where they spend another 3 to 4 months with an experienced training officer, teaching them how to take that knowledge that they learned in the police academy and apply it to situations on the street. So we're always about a year behind in terms of when we hire somebody and actually getting them on the street as a functioning police officer. So, but that's the same for everybody. Right now, we're in pretty good shape. I have one opening right now, and so we've actually had pretty good turnouts for our hiring dates. But I'd like to think, I have talked to other chiefs, and I know that they've experienced the problem with not getting applicants. And I think it's a compliment to us that our reputation out there is good enough that people want to come work for us. And so we're seeing pretty good groups of applicants come in. We're getting some really incredibly good people hired, and so we're not seeing the problems that a lot of agencies are seeing.
Is your pay comparable to the other cities?
Yes, absolutely. And and I think this year in the budget they plan to do another salary survey. It's a constant battle to stay competitive, but again, we are very competitive with our area cities, and so there's really not that much difference when you look at the various cities. It's just really comes down to which department do you want to work for, and so that helps us too.
One of the things that and I'm going to get into it further, is the ballistic shields, things like ballistic shields, things like the special equipment that you would need
Right.
on certain situations. Are those things available with the city of Waxahachie PD?
They are. We've just recently ordered some more. We typically you see those in SWAT teams, but after Uvalde, we started looking at the what if scenarios, and one of the things that we had not recognized in our active shooter training was the possibility of the suspect barricading himself in a classroom. And so we have now purchased entry kits to uh, open a door and ballistic shields for protection. And so, yeah, we're in the process of equipping our patrol officers with that equipment.
Since we're on the subject, I'll go ahead and get into it. That was, uh, I believe it was 19 children that lost their lives in Uvalde.
Yeah,
If I'm wrong about the number, I'm sorry. It was too many.
it
So
was.
it
Yeah,
the function, there was a lot of after action, and there was a lot of things that were done wrong. I've talked with the superintendent of Waxahachie ISD, and he talked about some of the things and working with y'all. Um, Chief, what are some of the things that Waxahachie PD is doing to ensure that if this happens in our city, that we are as prepared as we possibly can be?
yeah. I think well, one thing is that we have officers in our schools. We have school resource officers in the schools. We have a great working relationship with the schools, and then the school has school marshals who are armed individuals in the schools, and then we have the school security, and we have done a lot of training for these kind of things. And so, every time we have an event, we look at that event and try to analyze it and say what went wrong or what went right. You can learn both ways. And so we're still I mean, there's still the comprehensive final report on Uvalde still hasn't come out, but a couple of reports have. We've watched the videos. We've you know critiqued it. Um, and so we make adjustments in our training so that we can learn from those mistakes and make sure that they don't happen here. And we are usually when guidelines come out that say, hey, you should be doing this or you should be doing that, we're already doing them, and we're already doing them with the school district in conjunction with them. We're already doing the training. So we make put a lot of effort into that avenue so that if it does happen, that we're prepared.
Chief, do you do training with state entities and federal agencies? Because I know that there's a lot of. I think the FBI has a shooter training. Several different government entities have them. Do you do co drills with them or stuff like that?
We don't really do it with the state or the feds, but we do it with surrounding agencies. And so I think the reality of it here. Now DPS troopers could show up, and we have a good relationship with them. Uh, we don't train with them a lot, but we know who they are. They know who we are. But we have a lot of interaction and training with the agencies around us. So that's really where we focus on.
And the reason I ask that is because whenever there is a situation like that where there's mass chaos, there's a command center set up and there is a chain of command established, and there's so many things that go into that. And then there was a discussion in Uvalde on who's in charge,
Exactly.
and that kind of thing, that kind of thing happens when you don't train and when you don't understand how these command centers work. So does
Yeah.
Waxahachie have a pretty good handle on that?
Yes, I feel very comfortable. We have a good handle on that. Now, Uvalde was a little different because they have, because of their location and the immigration issues they have a lot of federal agents in their town on any given day. But we don't have that kind of presence here. But we do train in the instant command system. All of our commanders have that training. I don't think you would see that confusion here that you saw there.
And that would be good. I'm sure that the families of WISD definitely appreciate that work that you've done, Chief. So I wanted to ask you one of the things that I talked with the Ellis County Children's Advocacy Center, and I also talked with Sheriff Brad Norman during the interview, and we talked about sex trafficking and human trafficking, and it is an issue even for our small, wonderful community. And so I wanted to know, what is Waxahachie PD doing as far as sex trafficking, human trafficking? Are you seeing a rise in it? What kind of work are you doing multi-agency wise?
Yeah, I think we work very closely with the Child Advocacy Center, and they're kind of the hub of the wheel for any offenses involving children. We work very closely with them, and we have meetings on a regular basis where we bring in all the partners that work with them. We exchange information. We collaborate. We'll have everybody there from the prosecutor's office, Child Protective Services, the police departments, the sheriff's office, uh, victim assistance. I mean, we get the entire comprehensive team working on those kind of issues and working together so that, and then there's specialized training that comes out to recognize when somebody may be being trafficked or victimized in that way. So we do have it. It does happen everywhere. We have seen some cases here. Our officers are trained to recognize those kind of things, and the Child Advocacy Center is constantly working at ways to get better at handling those through the various agencies and levels of service to those victims.
And that is an unfortunate thing for us that is spreading and that is happening. But it's a good thing that you guys have a handle. The All the agencies, local agencies, seem to be working on this, and that is good. So let's go to the street, Chief. What's going on as far as what is the most prevalent drug issues you're experiencing? Are you finding, because on the news they're talking about fentanyl and how it's killing our children? And so, are we experiencing those same problems with fentanyl as other cities are seeing?
We are seeing fentanyl. We have made some arrests, and we are seeing fentanyl come in. Recently, we made an arrest where they're hiding fentanyl now in counterfeit pills that look like another type of drug, but they've actually got fentanyl in them. So again, we're attacking that as aggressively as we can. Fortunately, to my knowledge, off the top of my head, I don't think we've had any deaths related to it. But it's a very dangerous drug, and we are out there working on it.
Do your officers carry Narcan?
We do have some Narcan. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I Don't know if every officer has it, but we do have it available. Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know what Narcan is, I'm not a doctor, but it blocks the absorption of the opiate, so that the people could kind of recover from that.
Yeah.
And it could be the difference between living and dying at that in that situation. So we're seeing fentanyl. Are you seeing that rainbow color? Because they were talking about that they're making them like a more appealing to the kids, which is just
I have not seen those yet, but like I say, anything's possible.
that's horrible. Other than the fentanyl, what are you seeing out there?
Most of what we're dealing with is thefts. I mean, we've got a lot of construction in the area, and that's we deal mostly with property crimes and thefts. Uh, you know,
I have
it,
seen that. I have seen
yeah.
that, Chief, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've seen posts about that, about people getting their break-ins and stuff. Is it on the rise, and kind of what is the city doing to kind of look out for those type of crimes? And better question is, what can people do to prevent these things?
Well, I mean, a lot of things are real simple in terms of one. Um, I mean, things that are stolen out of people's cars and things, and it's as simple as locking your car a lot of times. Things that are stolen from construction sites are a little more difficult. Um, Obviously, if there's some kind of identifiers on any of the equipment, then that helps us recover it. But things like lighting, security systems, all those things, each one of those things is a deterrent. It may not stop it, but it'll stop a few people that go, oh, I see a security camera up, I'm going to go somewhere else. Or, I'm going to test this door handle and it's locked, so I'm going to move on to a different car. And that's really, you're not going to stop somebody if they truly want to steal whatever it is. But the idea is just take some simple steps to discourage that particular criminal and let them go somewhere else.
Yeah, just the little things, and it's unfortunate that we have to live in that kind of world now. But you got to lock your stuff away, folks,
Yeah.
and shut your cars and stuff. But so, as far as one of the most dangerous situations that an officer can get in is domestics. So, I wanted you to kind of speak on, have you seen an explosion of domestic violence, child sex crimes? I have seen that there has been some prosecutions by Ann Montgomery of some seriously ugly child sex offenders. But have you seen a rise in that and in domestics, and what kind of domestics, Chief?
Well, I think in the actual domestic violence, we saw an increase when COVID hit and people were, stayed at home and couldn't get out. And, that anytime you confine people, then they end up being in conflict a lot of times. So we saw some increase in that. The one thing that was really pronounced with COVID and people starting to work from home and that kind of thing was a significant increase in child porn. And the child pornography cases have gone up significantly. You touched on it. We have filed a number of cases. The sheriff's office and us and a number of agencies have gotten together and done some online work to catch online predators. So that's an area that we have seen an increase in, and it's unfortunate, but we are working on it.
That is horrible. That is horrible. So you've seen an uptick in child porn. Now, as far as the people trying to engage in those activities with children, or are you finding like where they're actually taping this, or you're finding people who actually are I mean, and I know that's graphic, folks, but there's a difference there. There is a difference in intensity.
We're seeing it on all levels, all
Oh,
levels.
oh wow. That is horrible. Yeah. So drugs, sex offenders. One of the things that
That's
violent,
my that's my career. Yeah, right
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. Vi- So as far as violent crime, like real, and there it's all violent, but I'm violent
Right.
murders, and such. What are you seeing there?
We're seeing an uptick in that now. Most of what we're seeing in terms of violent crime is aggravated assaults, but we have seen a pretty significant increase, and that's nationwide. That the violent crime has gone up. Our property crimes are actually about the same as over last year, and we had decreases prior to that. But in the last year or two, we've seen an uptick in violent crime. Luckily for us, that's not a lot of homicides and those kind of things. And for us, it's still small numbers, but it's still an increase for us.
Yeah, that it and that's unfortunate. There was a I remember that probably a few months ago, maybe it was a little more, somebody shot somebody over a parking spot, and that was a real unfortunate incident to happen.
Yeah.
I've wanted to park closer to a school store or something, and that I never thought about doing some stuff like that.
Exactly, and I think that's where we've kind of gone in this country. We're seeing gun violence on the rise. We're seeing that kind of violence. It's people are stressed out. People are they're listening too much to violent rhetoric on social media and there's a thousand different causes, but the bottom line we end up working it, and yeah.
One thing that I asked Chief Smith about was how your officers are trained to, and they're talking about this a lot in the news nationwide. There's a mental health crisis in this country, and officers, unfortunately, officers are not psych majors, and they have to come into contact with people who have serious psychological distress. Are your officers being trained in that? And then add a caveat: when there's children with mental things that are going on and dealing with children in that capacity as a law enforcement officer. Are you doing that training in Waxahachie?
Yes, we started a couple of years ago. Our goal was to have every officer certified as a mental health peace officer. That's a 40-hour curriculum. It's certainly not like a master's degree or anything, but we put every officer through that training. In last year's budget, we also hired a crisis support specialist that is a licensed social worker. So she follows up with individuals that we run across and provides services to them, tries to direct them to services that can help them out. Um, so we are definitely putting a lot of effort in that direction because, like I say, the mental health system is severely lacking. There's a lot of people that just cannot get help. And so we end up dealing with them when they go into crisis. And, that's not our field of expertise, but who else are you going to call? And so the police get called out into situations that we would rather not be in, but we have to go out and handle it. And usually when we get called out, it has deteriorated to the point where the person is violent, and and then we're faced with trying to stop a violent person who is mentally ill.
And those are very one of the most dangerous situations that an officer can come into, and the actual person, because those situations can escalate. And
Absolutely.
so um one of the things that happened during this whole COVID thing is that there was a serious talk about policing in this country, and as far as policing people of color and underserved communities, and all that stuff. There was that conversation, and our local community came together. Unlike a lot of communities around who had violence, a lot of violence, our community kind of came together. I'd like you to kind of speak on that, on what Waxahachie, how did you as the police chief take that time and see it, and kind of deal with that, and get your guys to deal with it, or and gals.
Okay. Yeah, I think uh, as a chief, it's important to realize that we don't have great relations with some minority groups, and especially the African American community, where the history with policing is not very good. And so, from day one, we've tried to reach out and build those relationships with various members in the community, leaders in the various minority communities, and I think we did a great job in that. I'm on first name basis with a lot of individuals throughout the community. And so when the protests and things came, you know, we just called one another and said, "Hey, we want to have a protest." I said, "Okay, we want it to be safe," and we worked together to organize those things. And like I say, we have a very positive relationship here. It's not to say that hey, something could happen, but we've got a good enough relationship that I think they would feel any individual that's a leader in the African American community, the Hispanic community could call and say, "Hey, tell me what happened," and we would have a very open, transparent discussion.
And that's good. That's part of how you heal and you make connections with communities like that. Um, Chief, you've served your community for a long time, and I want to personally thank you for doing that. I'm all about serving the community, and I love people that do so. And law enforcement can be a thankless job. Law enforcement can be very hard. It's terrible on. It could be terrible on marriages. There's so many things that you dealt with in the last 42 years of policing and trauma and the worst things in society, and yet you continue to serve. So I want to thank you personally for doing that, and I wanted to give you the mic to go ahead and speak to the people of Waxahachie as you go ahead and retire.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And you're right. Police officers have to deal with things that most people never even think about. And, we deal with trauma and death and aspects that are very, very difficult. But on the other hand, it's very rewarding too. And we realize very quickly that society needs us and people are appreciative. And every once in a while in your career, somebody comes up years later and they tell you, "You made such a difference in my life." And the funny thing is, you may not even remember what you did or what your interaction was with that individual, but those are the things that make you come back. And I've had just the greatest career that I could ever imagine. There's so many police shows and things on TV that people are fascinated by police work, and they fantasize about it. They watch it on TV, and I got to live it. And so I feel so fortunate. And for the last 7.5 years, being chief in Waxahachie has been absolutely a wonderful experience. Waxahachie is a great community. They support us. Uh, we get a great department. We get great people, and we've been able to build a culture in our department that is as good as anywhere in the country. I'll put our officers against anybody. They're very engaging. They're very professional. They're well trained. Um, and I walk away at the end of this career with such pride that we've been able to do that here. That I'm walking away on such a high note that it's 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 just can't think of any better way to do it.
Well, it's well earned and well deserved. May God bless you in your retirement, and go out there and have some fun and enjoy and live a good life. You've done your job, and somebody else has to watch from here.
Well,
Um,
they do, and the department's in good hands, and I plan on living that good life and taking it easy for a while.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Chief, thank you again for coming on. Thank you so much for your service. And hey, folks, I plan on having the Mayor Midlothian on soon. I hope you will watch the show on Friday. What is it? This Friday, I have Mr. John Garrett, who is building the Texas Theater. He's bringing it back to life, and I think it's going to be a great show. I hope you guys will watch, and I would love for you guys to be here and see that. Chief, again, thank you so much. You take care.
Appreciate it. Goodbye.